Spider-Man 2 interview today, so let's roll that intro! What's going on, everyone? It's Stardust. Welcome back to another video on Marvel's Spider-Man 2. If you're new here, of course be sure to subscribe. Of course like the video, but if you don't like the video towards the end, you can of course change it to a dislike. I won't see it anyway because YouTube have taken that option away. We have a new interview. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 escalates each character's personal and superhero struggles. This is on Marvel.com, so you know it's super aficionado. Insomniac Games Senior Creative Director Brian Interhart and Marvel Games VP and Creative Director Bill Roseman broke down the challenges Peter, Miles and MJ face in Marvel's Spider-Man 2. So this is going to be quite juicy. So this says, even though both Spider-Men have their hands full with villains like Venom, Lizard and Kraven the Hunter in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker and Miles Morales will still have plenty to juggle in their own personal lives. Speaking to Marvel.com, Insomniac Games Senior Creative Director Brian Interhart and Bill Roseman offered some insight into the challenges each character will face, from college admission essays, I couldn't speak then, that's not good, I can read, I promise, to rekindled romances to new bosses. Now, that's quite interesting, rekindled romances, alright, because, you know, I thought Peter and MJ were doing alright, but apparently not. And new bosses, obviously we know, is J. Jonah Jameson, as once again the head of the Daily Bugle, and college admission essays is of course related to Miles Morales. We have this here. We all talked about why do we love Spider-Man into our record. I think the thing that we said right from the bat was he's probably the most relatable superhero out there. He's not a soldier like Captain America, he isn't a god like Thor, he isn't a billionaire like Tony Stark, he's a kid from Queens, and Miles is a kid from Brooklyn. They have good days and bad days, and strengths and weaknesses, and real problems that we can all identify with, and have struggles that we've all had in our lives. I completely agree with that, you know. Peter Parker is absolutely swimming in poontang in his entire life, and I have never once been in that experience. So you know what, Peter being an absolute womanizer is something I can't relate to, but besides that, you're on the ball there, good sir Brian Interhart. Next we have, I think we try to inject that into every story that we do. So for example, probably most people in their lives can identify with when I have to apply for college. That's what Miles is going through. Like, okay, I've got to write this essay, this college essay, and he's struggling with it, he continued. I think everyone's been there before, you know what I mean? Especially in an assignment and stuff like that. Peter is trying to figure out, okay, I'm going to start this new teaching gig, and I'm trying to figure out living out, and I'm taking out MJ's house, not MJ, Aunt May. That'd be really weird if he was shacking up with Aunt May. Aunt May's house. How am I going to do it? Then taking that next step with, you know, now him and Mary Jane are back together, and what's their next step in their relationship? Where's that going, he added. Now, I remember reading the prequel book, and I do know that Peter wanted MJ to move into Aunt May's place, but MJ was like, no, I need to be, you know, in the city so I can be closer to the Daily Bugle and everything else like that. So that's probably going to carry over to Marvel Spider-Man 2. We probably have all those stories, and then not only that, Peter now has his best friend coming back into his life with Harry, and he has his best friend who he grew up with, but then he has Miles. What's that like? He mused. And then with MJ, she's trying to establish herself, and she has a boss who has a very different philosophy, aka J. Jonah Jameson, which will be a really hilarious thing. But I'm looking forward to seeing the dynamic between Harry and Miles, because you don't really get to see that a lot in any type of media, so I think that's going to be really, really interesting. So it's finding those situations that, oh, I remember when I went through that, or I know somebody close to me that went through that. I think that's where we kind of start, he explained. So yeah, we're gonna have crazy characters and Kraven and Lizard and Venom, but what's the part when they're not out there? What's that part? I think that's the thing to me, actually, is the thing I talk about first. If we can get that down, the other stuff is like, I would say that's like we're baking the cake. That's the cake part. And then the icing is all the superhero stuff we got away with on top of it, he concluded. Which is, you know, I mean, I completely get it. I mean, you want to make sure that it's a personal story first, and then you add all the bonkers superhero stuff afterwards. Interhart referred back to the first game to illustrate the point, just talking about Marvel Spider-Man, you know, why Peter is 23. Because that was the year I I finally kind of was like, okay, I'm on my own now, he shared. I was like, I want to tell the story. I want to tell when I was 23 years old, done with college, at my first job, what was that like? That's why he's 23. Selfishly, I wanted to be Peter Parker at 23 years old. So anyone who attacked me during this short here, saying that he's around 23 to 25, you can suck my cheeks, because it's clear that he is 23 in that game. Alright, so it's finding those relatable situations that we can all relate to, because it just makes it easier to write and coordinate and talk about. Again, the superhero stuff is great, but you have to have the human, he emphasised, which makes a lot of sense. Then story lead John Paquette added, when we're writing, creating the characters, we always say that when Spider-Man wins, Peter loses, or Miles loses, or MJ loses, goddamn, everyone loses. Alright, that push and pull has always got to be there, because it's not just one big sacrifice for every Spider-Man story. Spider-Man is constantly sacrificing. He's constantly got to make choices between, do I do something for Spider-Man, or do I do something for myself, that is. I think that what makes him a really cool character, somewhat relatable, but it's really fun to work with that dynamic. I keep occasionally stuttering. It's a lot of things to read, and clearly, as you guys have known from my multiple videos on this channel, I'm not a very good reader. But that is the interview completely done. Super excited for this. Make sure to pick up Marvel Spider-Man 2 October 20th. I can't wait to jump in and play it myself. This interview sounds really